I looked my mother dead in the eyes and said the word that would destroy everything. No. She slapped me so hard my ears rang. That single moment of defiance would cost me my family, my reputation, and nearly my sanity. But it would also save my life. My name is Tessa, and I'm 29 years old. For as long as I can remember, I've been the family workhorse, the responsible one, the fix-it person, the emergency fund. While my younger brother Ryan partied through college on my dime and my mother Linda enabled his every excuse, I worked 2 jobs, paid my own rent, and somehow still ended up funding their crises. It all came crashing down on a Tuesday night in March. I was sitting at Mom's dining table, exhausted from a double shift at the hospital where I work as a nurse, when she dropped the bomb so casually it felt rehearsed. "So, Tessa, Ryan's lease is up next week," Mom said, passing me the mashed potatoes like she was commenting on the weather. "He'll be moving in with you. I already told him you'd help him get back on his feet." I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. "Excuse me," I said slowly. Ryan didn't even look up from his phone. He was 26 years old, wearing a Supreme hoodie I'd bought him for Christmas, scrolling through Instagram like this conversation didn't concern him. "It's temporary," Mom continued, her tone that familiar mix of sweetness and steel. "Just until he finds something stable. You have that extra bedroom anyway." My extra bedroom. The one I used as a home office. The space I'd specifically chosen in my apartment so I could finally have something that was mine. "No," I said. The word hung in the air like a grenade with a pin pulled. Mom's smile froze. "What did you say?" I said no, Mom. Ryan can't move in with me. My brother finally looked up, his face twisting into that entitled smirk I'd seen 1,000 times. "Are you serious right now?" "It's not a big deal, Tessa. Stop being dramatic." Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the fact that I just covered his car insurance payment, again, 2 days prior. Maybe it was 10 years of being taken for granted finally reaching critical mass. "It's a huge deal, Ryan," I said, my voice shaking but steady. "I've paid your rent 4 times. I paid off your credit card debt twice. I gave you $3,000 last year alone. I bought you a car with money I'd saved for a down payment on a house. And you've never paid me back a single cent." "That's what family does," Mom interjected sharply. "We help each other." "Help." I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. "When have either of you ever helped me? When I needed surgery last year, who helped? When my car broke down, who was there? I handled everything alone while I kept bailing both of you out." "You're being selfish," Mom said, her voice rising. "Your brother is struggling. Ryan is choosing to struggle." I shot back. He quit his last job because he didn't vibe with the energy. He got fired from the one before that for showing up late. He's not struggling, he's refusing to be an adult, and you keep enabling him. Ryan stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "You know what? Screw you, Tessa. I always knew you thought you were better than us." "That's not," I started, but Mom cut me off. "Enough." Her voice was ice cold now, and when I looked at her, I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen directed at me before, pure contempt. "If you're going to be this way, if you're going to abandon your family when we need you, then maybe you should just leave." "Fine," I said, grabbing my purse with shaking hands. "I'll leave. And don't call me the next time Ryan needs rent money or you need your electric bill paid." I was almost at the door when I felt it, a sharp, stinging pain across my left cheek that made my vision blur. Mom had slapped me. I stood there, stunned, my hands slowly rising to touch my burning face. In 29 years, she'd never hit me. Never. She'd yelled, guilt, manipulated, but never this. "Get out of my house," she hissed. So I did. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, crying so hard I couldn't see the steering wheel. My phone buzzed, a text from Ryan. Asterisk, hope you're happy. Mom's crying. You always have to make everything about you. Asterisk. Then another from Mom. Asterisk, I raised you better than this. Disappointing. Asterisk. I drove to my best friend Sophie's apartment in a daze. When she opened the door and saw my face, still red with the imprint of my mother's hand, she pulled me inside without a word. She hit you. Sophie's voice was deadly quiet as I told her everything. I nodded, fresh tears streaming down my face. What do I do, Soph? They're my family. Maybe I am being selfish. Stop, Sophie interrupted firmly. Tessa, listen to me. What they've done to you isn't love. It's abuse. It's exploitation. And you've been so deep in it for so long that you've normalized it. But they're going to hate me, I whispered. They're going to hate that you're not their personal ATM anymore, Sophie corrected. There's a difference. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to document everything. Every text, every Venmo, every promise they broke. You're going to protect yourself because nobody else will. Over the next 3 hours, Sophie and I went through my entire financial history. What we uncovered made me physically sick. In the past 7 years, I had given my family over $47,000. $47,000. Ryan's rent, $18,000. His car, $12,000. Credit card debt I'd paid off, $8,000. Emergency loans to Mom, $6,500. Ryan's car insurance, $2,500. The list went on and on. Meanwhile, I was living in a modest one-bedroom apartment, driving a 12-year-old Honda, and eating ramen 3 nights a week to make ends meet. Jesus Christ, Tessa, Sophie breathed, staring at the spreadsheet we'd created. You could have bought a house. You could have traveled the world. You've been living like you're broke while making them comfortable. The phone calls started the next day. Mom first. Asterisk, we need to talk about your behavior. This isn't like you. Asterisk. Then Ryan. Asterisk, everyone thinks you're being a psycho. Just apologize and this can all go away. Asterisk. Then extended family members I barely spoke to. Asterisk, your mother is devastated. How could you treat her this way? Asterisk. They'd launched a full smear campaign, painting me as the villain who'd abandoned my struggling family in their time of need. The story they told bore no resemblance to reality. So I did something I'd been too afraid to do before. I posted the truth. I created a private Google Drive folder with screenshots of every transaction, every broken promise, every manipulative text message. Then I wrote a detailed letter explaining the situation, not emotional, just factual, and shared both to our extended family group chat. The letter read, Asterisk, I want to address the narrative that's being shared about me. I'm not heartless. I'm not selfish. I'm exhausted. For 7 years, I have financially supported my mother and brother while working multiple jobs and sacrificing my own financial stability. I have documentation of $47,000 in loans that were never repaid, along with promises that were repeatedly broken. Last week, when I set a boundary and declined to let Ryan move into my apartment rent-free, my mother physically assaulted me. I am not abandoning anyone. I am protecting myself. The evidence is attached. Asterisk. My phone exploded. Some relatives were supportive. Asterisk. I had no idea it was this bad. I'm so sorry. Asterisk. Others were angry. Asterisk. You had no right to air family business like this. Asterisk. Mom called me 17 times in 1 hour. I didn't answer. Ryan sent a series of increasingly unhinged texts. Asterisk, you're dead to me. You ruined everything. I hope you're proud of yourself. Asterisk. But the message that changed everything came 3 days later, from a number I didn't recognize. Asterisk, Hi Tessa, this is Margaret Chen from Riverside Tech Solutions. I'm Ryan's manager. I need to speak with you urgently about some concerning information that's come to light. Please call me at this number. Asterisk. My stomach dropped. When I called back, Margaret's voice was professional but strained. Tessa, I received some forwarded messages from a mutual contact that included information about your brother's work history. He told us his frequent absences were due to family emergencies, specifically that he was caring for his ill sister. I closed my eyes. Of course he had. I'm not ill, I said quietly. I'm a nurse. I work full-time. Ryan's been lying to you. There was a long pause. I see. We've had ongoing issues with his reliability and truthfulness. This confirms our concerns. I wanted to verify with you before taking action. I'm sorry you've been dragged into this. 2 hours later, Ryan called me, screaming. You got me fired. Are you happy now? Are you happy? I didn't get you fired, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. You got yourself fired by lying to your employer and using me as an excuse. Don't blame me for the consequences of your choices. Mom was right about you, he spat. You're a vindictive bitch. This is all your revenge for her telling you the truth at dinner. Ryan, she slapped me, I said quietly. And you watched. You've stolen thousands of dollars from me. You've lied about me to your boss. But somehow I'm the villain here. He hung up. That night, Ryan showed up at my apartment, pounding on the door at 11 p.m. Open up, Tessa. We need to talk. I called Sophie, who stayed on the phone with me while I spoke to him through the door. I'm not opening the door, Ryan. You need to leave. This is your fault. His voice cracked. I lost my job because of you. The least you can do is let me stay here until I figure things out. No, I said firmly. I offered to help you countless times. I paid for things I couldn't afford. I gave you opportunity after opportunity. You're not entitled to my home, my money, or my life. You need to leave, or I'm calling the police. You wouldn't dare. Try me. The pounding stopped. I heard him kick my door once, hard enough to leave a dent, then footsteps walking away. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I found out that Mom had told everyone at her church that I'd orchestrated Ryan's firing out of spite. The lies were multiplying faster than I could track them. Sophie came over with coffee and a grim expression. Tessa, I think you need to consider legal action. The harassment, the slander, the financial exploitation, you have grounds for a civil case. At minimum, you need a restraining order. The word lawsuit made my stomach turn. These were my mother and brother. My family. But Sophie was right. This wasn't going to stop unless I forced it to stop. I met with a lawyer named Patricia Huang the following week. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense. This is one of the clearest cases of financial exploitation I've seen, she said after reviewing my documentation. You have texts where your mother promises repayment. You have bank records. You have witnesses. If you want to pursue this, you'll likely win. I don't want money, I said. I just want them to leave me alone. Then we go for a restraining order first, Patricia said. But Tessa, you need to prepare yourself. This is going to get uglier before it gets better. Family court cases always do. She wasn't wrong. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. In that time, Mom and Ryan's behavior escalated. They showed up at my workplace. They sent flying monkeys, relatives and family friends, to guilt trip me. They posted vague Facebook statuses about ungrateful children and family betrayal. Ryan created a fake social media account to send me threatening messages. Asterisk, you're going to regret this. You think you're safe in that apartment? Watch your back. Asterisk. I documented everything and forwarded it all to Patricia. The day of the hearing, I walked into that courtroom feeling like I might vomit. Mom and Ryan sat on the opposite side with their own lawyer, a stern-looking man named David Brennan. Mom was dressed in her church clothes, looking like a grieving saint. Ryan wore a suit I'd probably paid for, his expression a perfect mask of wounded innocence. The judge, a woman named Judge Sandra Reeves, reviewed the case file with an unreadable expression. Ms. Garrett, she began, addressing me, you're seeking a restraining order against both your mother and brother based on allegations of harassment, threats, and one instance of assault. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, I said, my voice barely steady. And Mrs. Garrett, Mr. Garrett, she turned to them, you're contesting this order. Mr. Brennan, would you like to present your opening statement? Their lawyer painted me as a cold-hearted daughter who'd abandoned her family in their time of need, then weaponized the legal system to avoid accountability. He framed every loan as a gift freely given, and dismissed the slap as a moment of understandable frustration. Your Honor, this is a family disagreement that's been blown out of proportion by a daughter who's seeking attention and control. Mrs. Garrett is a devoted mother who's being punished for asking for basic familial support. Then it was Patricia's turn. She methodically presented the evidence. The $47,000 in documented loans. The texts promising repayment. The messages after the slap where Mom blamed me for making her so upset that she lost control. The photos of my bruised face. Ryan's threatening messages from the fake account. Your Honor, this isn't a family disagreement. It's a pattern of financial exploitation, emotional manipulation, and escalating harassment. My client has tried repeatedly to set reasonable boundaries. She's been met with violence, threats, and retaliation. She deserves legal protection. Judge Reeves studied the evidence for what felt like an eternity. Mrs. Garrett, she said finally, did you strike your daughter? Mom's mask slipped for just a moment. She was being disrespectful, Your Honor. She refused to help her brother when he desperately needed. That's a yes or no question, Mrs. Garrett. Did you strike your daughter? Yes. But she. And Mr. Garrett, are these messages from you? She held up printouts of the threatening texts. Ryan's face went pale. I was upset. She got me fired. Another yes or no, Mr. Garrett. Yes, he admitted quietly. Judge Reeves removed her glasses. I've presided over family court for 18 years, and I've seen every excuse, every justification, every rationalization. What I see here is not a family disagreement. I see a pattern of exploitation where one family member has been systematically drained, financially, emotionally, and physically, while being told it's her duty. She looked directly at my mother. Mrs. Garrett, you struck your adult daughter because she declined to provide free housing to your son. You then launched a campaign to damage her reputation when she stood her ground. That is not motherhood. That is abuse. Mom's face turned red. Your Honor, with all respect. I'm not finished, Judge Reeves cut her off. Mr. Garrett, you have repeatedly taken money from your sister under false pretenses, lied to your employer using her as an excuse, and sent threatening messages when she stopped enabling your irresponsibility. You are 26 years old. It's time to be an adult. She signed the papers in front of her with sharp, definitive strokes. I'm granting the restraining order. Mrs. Garrett and Mr. Garrett are to have no contact with Ms. Tessa Garrett for a period of 1 year. This includes direct contact, third-party contact, and social media. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. Furthermore, I'm recommending mandatory family therapy for Mr. Garrett as a condition of the order. Ms. Garrett, do you wish to pursue recovery of the loan funds? I looked at Patricia, who nodded encouragingly. Yes, Your Honor, I said, my voice stronger now. Then I'm ordering a separate civil proceeding to determine repayment terms. This court is adjourned. The hallway outside the courtroom was chaos. Mom was crying, huge, theatrical sobs, surrounded by relatives who shot me venomous looks. Ryan looked shell-shocked, his lawyer murmuring urgently in his ear. I walked out with Patricia and Sophie, my hands shaking but my spine straight. "You did it," Sophie whispered, gripping my arm. But it didn't feel like victory yet. It felt like I just detonated a bomb in the middle of my family, and I was waiting to see who'd survive the blast. The civil case took 4 months to resolve. During that time, I started seeing a therapist named Dr. Ellen Wu. In our first session, she asked me a question that broke something open inside me. "Tessa, when was the last time you did something just for yourself? Not for work, not for your family, just for you." I couldn't answer. I couldn't remember. Dr. Wu helped me understand what had happened to me. She used words like parentification and enmeshment and financial abuse. She helped me see that my family had trained me from childhood to believe my value was directly tied to my usefulness. "You weren't raised to have boundaries," she explained gently. "You were raised to be a resource. And when you finally said no, they punished you for it because you weren't fulfilling your assigned role anymore." The civil case concluded in August. The judge ordered Ryan to repay $18,000 over 5 years, a fraction of what he actually owed, but more than I'd ever expected to see. Mom was ordered to repay $6,500 for the emergency loans. The rest was deemed unrecoverable due to poor documentation on my part for the earliest transactions. I didn't care about the money anymore. I cared about the acknowledgement, the legal binding recognition that what they'd done was wrong. But the most surprising development came 3 weeks after the judgment. My phone rang from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Tessa, it's Ryan." I almost hung up. "You're violating the restraining order." "It expired 2 days ago," he said quietly. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to say something. Can I, please?" I put him on speaker with Sophie listening beside me. "5 minutes," I said. "I started therapy," he began, his voice unsteady. "Court mandated at first, but I kept going after. And Tessa, I didn't realize how messed up everything was. I didn't see it. Or I didn't want to see it. I stayed silent. Dr. Morrison, my therapist, he made me write out every time I borrowed money from you. Every time I made a promise I didn't keep. Every excuse I made. And when I saw it all written down, all at once, I felt sick. I've been a parasite, Tessa. I've been exactly what you said I was. Ryan. Let me finish, please." He took a shaky breath. "I got a job. It's part-time, warehouse work, nothing glamorous. But I show up every day. I'm making payments on what I owe you. I'm trying. And I don't expect you to forgive me or want a relationship with me. I just need you to know that I'm finally taking responsibility." I felt tears pricking my eyes. "What about Mom?" His laugh was bitter. "Mom's convinced herself she did nothing wrong. She tells everyone who'll listen that you manipulated the court system. She's not going to change, Tessa." We talked for an hour. Ryan told me about his therapy sessions, about confronting the entitlement and immaturity he'd been coddled into. He admitted he'd been terrified of adult responsibility and I'd been his convenient escape hatch. "I don't know if I'll ever fully understand how much I hurt you," he said at the end. "But I'm going to try to be better. Not for you. For me. I'm 27 years old, and I've been acting like a teenager. That has to stop." After we hung up, Sophie looked at me with cautious hope. "That sounded genuine?" "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe it's another manipulation. Time will tell." But something had shifted in me. I wasn't waiting for my family to validate my decision anymore. I wasn't seeking their approval or forgiveness. I was done carrying their weight. Over the next 6 months, Ryan continued therapy and kept making his court-ordered payments. We exchanged occasional texts, brief, cordial, boundaried. He sent me a photo of his first paycheck with a message, asterisk, it's not much, but it's honest work. Thanks for not giving up on pushing me to grow up, even when I hated you for it. Asterisk. Mom, true to Ryan's prediction, doubled down. She sent me a letter, mailed to my apartment despite the restraining order's expiration, that was 8 pages of guilt-tripping, gaslighting, and accusations. I read the first paragraph and threw it away. Dr. Wu asked me how that made me feel. Free, I said, and meant it. A year after the court case, I did something I'd been dreaming about since college. I booked a trip to Ireland. 2 weeks, solo, exploring castles and coastlines and tiny villages. I spent money on myself without guilt. I took photos without worrying about who I'd have to bail out when I got home. On my second-to-last day, sitting in a pub in Galway, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk, hi Tessa. It's Ryan. Mom's having a birthday dinner next month. She asked me to invite you. No pressure either way, but I wanted you to know you're welcome if you want to come. I'll be there, and I'd actually like to see you. But I understand if that's not something you're ready for. Asterisk. I stared at that message for a long time. A year ago, I would have agonized over it. I would have felt obligated. I would have gone, hoping this time would be different. Now, I texted back, asterisk, thanks for the invitation. I'm not ready yet, but I appreciate you asking. How are you doing? Asterisk. His response came quickly, asterisk, doing okay. Got promoted to full-time at the warehouse. Paid off another chunk of what I owe you. Life's not perfect, but it's mine. That's enough for now. Asterisk. I smiled. Asterisk, I'm proud of you, Ryan. Really? Asterisk. Asterisk, thanks, sis. That means more than you know. Enjoy Ireland. You deserve it. Asterisk. I'm 30 now. I live in a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment that I decorated myself. No roommates, no obligations, no one else's drama. I have savings. Actual savings. An emergency fund. Retirement contributions. Things I never thought I'd be able to afford. Sophie and I take monthly trips to try new restaurants, and I never have to calculate whether I can afford dessert because I might have to cover someone else's crisis. Ryan and I have coffee every few months. He's still in therapy. He's dating someone who holds him accountable. He paid off his debt to me last month, 2 years ahead of schedule, and cried when he made the final transfer. Mom and I don't speak. Maybe we will someday. Maybe we won't. I've made peace with either outcome. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, if I regret destroying my family over money. I tell them the truth. I didn't destroy anything. I stopped setting myself on fire to keep other people warm. I stopped accepting abuse in the name of family loyalty. I stopped believing that love meant sacrifice without reciprocity. What I did wasn't revenge. It was survival. It was choosing myself for the first time in my life. And if that makes me selfish in their eyes, I can live with that. There's a photo on my fridge from my Ireland trip. I'm standing on the cliffs of Maher, wind whipping my hair, arms spread wide, grinning like an idiot. I look at it every morning while I make coffee. That woman in the photo? She's not the same person who sat at her mother's dining table and said no for the first time. She's not the exhausted, guilt-ridden, people-pleasing doormat who'd been conditioned to believe her purpose was to serve. She's someone new. Someone who understands that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors, and she gets to decide who walks through them. Last week, I got a text from Ryan, Tessa. I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I'm getting married next year. Her name is Alicia. She's amazing. She doesn't take any of my crap, which is exactly what I needed. I'd really like you to meet her. No pressure. But you're my sister, and I'd like you in my life if you're willing. Asterisk. I thought about it for 3 days. Then I wrote back, asterisk, I'd love to meet her. Coffee next Saturday. Asterisk. His response was immediate. Asterisk, yes. Thank you, Tessa. You won't regret this. Asterisk. I might regret it. Healing isn't linear, and trust isn't rebuilt overnight. But I'm willing to try, on my terms, with my boundaries, protecting the peace I've fought so hard to build. Because that's what real family should be. People who respect your no as much as your yes. People who show up without expecting you to set yourself on fire. People who understand that love isn't measured in dollars or sacrifices, but in mutual respect and reciprocal care. I don't know how the dinner with Ryan and Alicia will go. I don't know if Mom will ever acknowledge what she did. I don't know what the future holds. But I know this. I'm no longer afraid of saying no. I'm no longer willing to disappear into other people's needs. I'm no longer convinced that my worth is determined by how much I give until there's nothing left. I'm Tessa. I'm 30 years old. I'm a nurse, a friend, a traveler, a woman who finally learned that the most important person to take care of is yourself. And that story, the one where I said no at a family dinner and it cost me everything, it also gave me everything. It gave me myself back. And that, I've learned, is worth more than any amount of money, any family approval, any illusion of peace purchased with my own destruction. So yeah, my mom casually mentioned that my brother would be moving in with me. But I refused. And it was the best decision I ever made.